Yeah, 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 yeah. Welcome back to another edition of the Men Who Cry podcast. Like, subscribe, review, tell a friend, and tell that friend to tell another friend. If you not do these things, I have to sue you. Do not tip your bartenders. On today's episode, we will be completing the top 10. Sorry, we'll be completing up to number 10 of the top 25 butterfly effect moments of sports in the last 25 seasons. Um, the amount of things that we have on here have been great. I think the list has stood up pretty well. It has been um, I would argue, a pretty fairly good list up to start up to this point, and we are finally going to get to the point of the 10 that we have. So we will have the 15 for you guys done. But before we get there, there was a big news story that broke a couple weeks ago that I know I didn't necessarily talk about this as much, and unfortunately, it wasn't talked about in the larger media scope. But I want everyone to realize that the NFL, at least the NFL Network, is now completely owned by ESPN. So, for those who do not know, is that the NFL and ESPN have come to an agreement on a deal. The ESPN has bought not only the NFL Network, NFL Fantasy, but the rights to distribute the Red Zone to cable channels. There was a report earlier this year, I believe, that the Red Zone was coming to an end. Um, and ESPN swooped in and bought it. So we will pretty much not have the NFL Network anymore, but it'll be all kind of swooped up under the NFL. In exchange for this deal, the NFL will now receive 10% of equity in all of ESPN. This deal has to go through regulatory approval, i.e., the president. And yeah, this will be like the first time that ESPN will have actual like other NFL content besides the one game that they get every year or every week rather with Monday Night Football. Um, so the positives of this, right? Smart deal, I think, for ESPN. If you're looking at pretty much all streaming services, the only way to be a streaming service now is to have sports. There's no other streaming service that you could think of that doesn't have sports. And the only ones that you could think of are, bundling together. Look at what's happening with Hulu, Disney Plus, and ESPN Plus. They're essentially a conglomerate now, all put together. Paramount Plus now has NFL and UFC as well. You can also look at what's happening with Fox. Every single streaming service that you have, Netflix has games and was in the running to believe to get some of the NBA games as well, but that didn't happen. Prime, you know, it's just a part of what it is. The biggest thing, and the reason why this story is kind of, I think, getting a little bit more life now is because once that deal went down, and I think this has now been happening for a couple of years, is that ESPN is no longer a journalistic site. It's no longer a place where journalism happens. It is now a place strictly just for entertainment and pushing out news. And one of the biggest things that, whether or not you want to believe that they had anything to do with this or not, is this recent report that ESPN has canceled a docu-series that was going to feature Colin Kaepernick's dealings with the NFL. Now, there's two parts of this, right? I can't fully get on board with the idea that Kaepernick is being railroaded in this way of what his story is because ultimately he signed a deal with the NFL a few seasons ago to essentially settle on his grievances with the league. What was in that deal, we have never found out, and we probably never will. What exactly was handled, and that's the decision that Colin made for him and himself, and he's going to always have to live with that. But it is fishy that right as a deal, goes through, that now people have to believe that the NFL had no say in a docuseries coming out with Spike Lee as the lead executive on it. There's a recent report right now from the USA Today from a Nancy Armour, who talks a little bit about this deal, right? It's the long-standing denials that the game has caused like brain traumas. We learned everything about that. Now we're supposed to believe now that the NFL had no dealings with what's happening with Colin Kaepernick. And it speaks to, again, the larger issue of what's happened with ESPN, with the deals that they're giving out to people like Stephen A. Smith. Mike Greenberg makes a lot of money. And really just overall at large is that journalism has taken a major hit in the sense of profitability, right? It is not, it used to be very profitable to have very big stories, right? That's how, for kids who are listening, newspapers were sold, right? Or articles are written online, how you get clicks and things like that. Now, because of what's basically happening in that you can basically write anything and now people will believe anything that's written out there, ESPN is clearly taking a fully step back from being a holistic journalistic site. And the fact that they are now have equity from another league in them means there's no way you can trust any single story that comes out about the league from them. And, you know, I understand that this was a tragedy that took place a couple weeks ago, but the fact is that we had a gunman come into New York City in one of the most highly dense areas of the city, walk into a building in Midtown, go up to the floor, and the only reason why he wasn't able to commit his assault on NFL personnel was because he got off on the wrong floor. He killed himself, and he also told people, study my brain for CTE. Now, why this? While this person was never in the NFL, the only stories or the only reporting that we have is that he only played high school football. You can still get and develop brain trauma from playing high school sports, especially high school football. But we have not heard anything about him since this has happened. Now, maybe this is a news cycle. Maybe there's not going to be a trial, obviously, because the assailant is deceased. But the story essentially just went away with the idea of who he was and how this all came to be about why he decided to go ahead and do this. That's something that I think ESPN would be a source to go ahead and investigate why he decided to do this, or what is going to be determined from his autopsy report. And that's kind of the main storyline with all of this, is just the major shift in away from journalism that we have seen in the last couple of seasons, or last couple of years rather, from these big time corporations, and the capitulation to just put out the fun times. No one really cares. So good in the sense that for people who love football, you're going to get a little more football that you get to watch, or you're not really going to lose the football that you were going to have for the NFL network. It'll still be on ESPN now. However, the idea of, you know, ESPN being a place where like actual journalism happening is dwindling and dwindling by the day, honestly. And it's a very sad time for people who used to grow up actually looking to ESPN for actual journalism. But with that said, we will be continuing our list for the top 25 butterfly effect moments of the last 25 seasons. Okay. We have number 13 on the list for you guys. Number 13 for you guys we have is one, Jalen Brunson signing with the New York Knicks at number 13. This happened on July 1st, 2022. Jalen Brunson leaves the Dallas Mavericks as a free agent and signs with his old agent. He signs to play with his father as his coach. And he goes to the New York Knicks. What makes this impactful, the reason why this made this list, is very simple. He helped save the franchise that was dead on arrival. We've seen now, if you look at the NBA scheduling that was just released the last couple of days, the NBA has always needed coastal cities to kind of carry them, right? A lot of times over the last 10 to 15 years, a lot of it was just LeBron carrying them, right? Whether he was in Cleveland, Miami, back to Cleveland, LeBron was carrying all that. LeBron hasn't been in the Eastern Conference in 7 years. So during that time period, there was a little bit of a gap. Obviously, you had the Celtics kind of come up. The Heat was really impactful at the time. Philadelphia had a lot of really good seasons. But having the Knicks be what they are, and just the money-making machine that they are in terms of ratings that they get, you needed them to be good. And they had just been kicking themselves over and over and over again. It was Charlie Brown with the football. They just couldn't get it out their own way. This 6'2" guy comes in and changes the way that the franchise is, saves it, and now stabilizes it in a way where now they're considered title contenders going forward. Since Jalen Brunson has joined the team for the 2022-23 season, the Knicks have the 6th most wins in the NBA in the regular season during that time frame. The only teams ahead of them during that time are the Celtics, Thunder, Cavaliers, Nuggets, and Buccaneers during that time in the league. So that is why Jalen Brunson makes this list, or makes this part of the list, for number 13 on the list. All right. As we slide over to number 12, number 12 on the list we have is Dana White partnering with the Fertitta brothers, to acquire the UFC. This took place in 2001. One of the Fertittas owns the Houston Rockets. He's been the owner for a little bit of time now. I think it's been about 5-6 years since he's owned the Rockets. Putting Dana White in charge of the UFC to acquire them back in the early 2000s. And this was what we talked about, if people remember the previous episode that we did, where we talked about the Floyd Mayweather fight. That time that Dana White was able to have the UFC and kind of build it up allowed them to become the powerhouse that they are now. It completely changed that sport. And not only did the decision change that sport, it also made it the number one combat sport that we have. Boxing has not generated anywhere near the amount of revenue, or the amount of attention that the UFC has in this time. And it's been a money-making machine. Whether or not you have any opinions about Dana White himself, he has been someone who has been able to market this league and make it so that people have wanted to watch and wanted to be a part of this league for a very, 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 very long time. And it's been incredibly influential, definitely over the last couple of years, as we've seen it's entering some of a weird political movement as well. So yes, next up we have the Golden State Warriors selecting Stephen Curry with the 7th pick in the NBA draft. This happened back in 2009. Steph Curry, arguably one of the 12 best players of all time in the NBA. Definitely one of the 2 or 3 best players since he has been drafted in the NBA. Completely changed that franchise. Not only just it changed the franchise, it changed the city of Oakland. It changed the city of San Francisco. The fact that the Warriors, who were also a team that was just considered a laughingstock for a long time, was able to not only generate enough championships, they were able to move to San Francisco and have a whole new arena built for them. That's all because of Steph Curry. You know, them getting Kevin Durant was because of Steph Curry. The fact that we had one player during the time of the tech boom that was happening in San Francisco completely shoot San Francisco's economy up to places that we haven't seen. San Francisco is one of the most highly costing cities in the world, not just the country, in the world. Okay. It goes back and forth between which is the most expensive country, or most expensive city to live in this country. It goes back and forth between New York and San Francisco every year. And the reason why a lot of that happens is also because of the tech boom, but a lot of that's because of Steph Curry. Completely changed the game, not just on the court, but off the court. What would have happened if he just went one more pick to the New York Knicks? Who would have never known. But that is number 11. Steph Curry getting drafted by the Golden State Warriors. And lastly on our list, number 10 that we have for you guys, is Kyrie Irving signing with Duke basketball. Number 10 on our list. Back in 2010, Kyrie Irving was a freshman he was a senior in high school. He was going into his senior year. And for him, he committed to play for the Duke Blue Devils. Now, while he only played 11 games, he was still the number 1 pick in the draft. Why is this all important? The reason why this is important is because this ushered in that Duke had to start playing ball with everyone else. Okay. For a while ago, the year before this, number 1 pick in the draft, and shout out to him for his retirement. He's now going to be on the Prime Video, I believe, as an analyst. John Wall was the number 1 pick in the draft, but he went to Kentucky with DeMarcus Cousins and the guys who went to school with him. That was not only just the start of the one and done era. The one and done era has happened before. You know, someone like Derrick Rose was one and done a couple seasons before that. Kevin Durant was one and done a couple seasons before that. The one and done era had happened, but it didn't really touch, you would think, like the Blue Bloods in this way. Specifically, it didn't touch a team like Duke. And Duke is the high standard of college basketball. You do not talk about college basketball if you do not talk about Duke basketball. And Kyrie Irving was the very first guy to be one and done at Duke, outside of Corey Maggette. That was the only other guy who went through. But the point is that that put Duke in a position of we had to play ball like everyone else is playing ball. And since then, we have had numerous guys go in the top 5 and the top 10 who are just one and done players. RJ Barrett, Zion Williamson, Brandon Ingram, Jabari Parker, Jahlil Okafor. The list goes on and on and on and on, right? And it completely shifted Duke in terms of how they had to recruit players and what kind of players they needed to recruit, and being okay with the fact that this one and done era was here to stay. And they've embraced it. Now we're in the NIL era, and they've embraced that as well. But Kyrie Irving was the signal of them shifting away from the kind of players that would probably stay for maybe 2 or 3 seasons, maybe 4 seasons, and embracing the fact that they're going to have to get guys who are only going to be on campus for a few months, even though, again, Kyrie played 11 games for them. All right. Thank you guys again for listening. That is all we have for you guys for the Men Who Cry podcast. We will be back again next week. Apologies for this only being a 1 podcast week, but you guys will see us again next week for your 2 pods, and we'll be back talking all the good things about sports and finishing up on our list. All right. Thank you guys again. Have a good rest of your day. Peace.